Tony Davis, ladies and gentlemen. Tony, you and I have known each other for a few years now. You actually helped me buy my first house, helped me buy several rental houses, and you've been in the mortgage lending business for over 10 years now. And so recently, you went off and you started your own mortgage company, and this year, you guys are gonna close over 100 million in loans. I mean, that is amazing. And what I'd like to talk about today is I have a lot of clients that are thinking about buying the first house or maybe the next house, and we always sit down and we start talking about the process. So I find out the criteria, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, etc., where they want to be. And inevitably the question always comes up of when do I get pre-approved or pre-qualified with a mortgage lender? Do I do it now as I'm starting the home search? Do I wait until we find the house that I like? What would you say, when is the best time to do it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say the sooner the better, because number one, nobody really knows when they're going to find a house. You know when you like to start looking, but it could be 3 months from now, 1 week from now, a year from now. Nobody really knows. And the objective is just to be prepared. So that way, when you're out looking at houses on a Sunday with your family and you find the perfect house, you're able to make an offer. Because what has a tendency to happen is people wait until the last minute to turn in their paperwork, and then they go out, they're looking at houses, they find the one, and turns out there's 5 other people that it's their perfect house too, but these people did their paperwork. So you have no chance of winning that offer, and you have to start all over again and go find another house. So that's not a particularly fun thing to do. So buying a house is exciting, it should be a neat thing, and it can get depressing if you keep losing to other buyers that are more prepared. So what we do is just recommend getting all your stuff in ahead of time, let a professional help work with you to figure out what's the best way to set up the loan. And then if it takes you 3 months or 4 months or 5 months to find a house, that's okay. The idea is that you're ready whenever the right one comes along.
Usually when I meet with buyers and we start talking about the pre-qualification process, I just go ahead and pull out my phone and I send them the loan from my phone, the application from my phone, just so that way they can go ahead and fill it out, and makes it a lot easier. Just like you said, I think the important thing is that they can do it from anywhere, which is so convenient. Before, you'd have to go into the branch and talk to a banker. Now you can just do it from your phone, literally while you're at work, probably scrolling through houses instead of doing, your job. So once somebody does that, once they take 20 minutes, 25 minutes to fill out this app, really easy to do, what happens next? What's the next step in the process?
Well, some lenders are kind of old school, and you go into the bank and talk with somebody and fill out a bunch of paperwork, and that's one way to do it. We try and make it as easy as possible for people to get us what we need. So what we do is typically we'll just text them a link to an online app. They can do it on their phone. It takes maybe 15 minutes, and while you're at work, taking a break, on your lunch, whatever, you can knock it out on your phone. And then from there, we need a few things like pay stub, W-2, bank statement. But basically, after you get that stuff in, a team of professionals on my team will follow up with them, make sure, number one, we'll give you kind of the max for, this is the ceiling for what you can qualify for, and then make sure that matches up with what you actually want to make the payments on. So we'll do that, and then get everything tightened up so that way your earnest money safe when you do find a house, and there's no last minute surprises.
What happens when somebody applies? Does their credit get hit, and what is the implication of that?
People think that pulling credit for a mortgage has a much bigger effect than it actually does. So you pull a mortgage inquiry, it's 3 points off your score, and the credit report's good for 4 months, and you get the 3 points back pretty quickly. So unless you're just pulling it and pulling it and pulling it and pulling it, it really will not affect anything as far as credit. So the way we handle that is, let's say your lease is up, 3 months from now or 4 months from now, we'll go ahead and pull the credit, figure everything out on the front end, and then if you haven't found a house in 4 months, we'll check in, see if you're still looking. If you are, we'll refresh the credit report and just keep everything current, so that way you're ready whenever the right house comes along.
How do I find the right mortgage lender? I mean, there's so many out there. I hear buyers will say, well, I'm planning on going to my bank and talking to one of the tellers or the bankers there, or the local credit union, or online somewhere. What's the best way to find the right lender, and what do you look for?
I would recommend starting with your real estate agent, because your real estate agent's gonna know the best lenders, who has the best reputation for getting people to the closing table without a lot of stress and without last minute surprises. Your average home buyer doesn't buy a house every day, so you're just not gonna know who. If you bought a house 7 years ago, great. It's a totally different landscape, different players in the market. So because most folks buy houses so infrequently, the consumer themselves is not really very informed as to find the best lender. You know, that the real estate agent's gonna know. So we always just encourage folks to check with the real estate agent and then kind of go from there.
Maybe I haven't come across or been in a situation like this yet, but I'll tell you, every time that I've worked with a lender that was picked by the buyer, that was an online lender or somebody random that they just picked out of the blue, I have never had a good experience, ever. And most of the time, we wind up having to switch the loan to a professional, somebody like you and your company, that can actually get it from where it's at that point to the actual closing table. It is amazing how important it is to get the right financing and the right lender on your side to buy a home. Now, what's the difference, would you say, between a lender like yourself and one of these other banks or online places? What's the main difference?
So the banks, people think of going to a bank because, you know, that's what they're taught, and so a lot of people start with their bank. And banks are great. There's good mortgage loan officers at banks all over the country, but the challenge with working with a bank is they are usually slow, and they're usually very paperwork intensive and not typically technology forward. So it tends to be a more grueling process because you're in line with 10,000 other people refinancing and, you know, so on and so forth. So that's an option, but I don't know that it's the best option. Another one would be obviously your online lenders, which that, you know, they provide a service to the community as well, but the online lenders have a tendency to hire lenders that were working at Zaxby's last week, you know? So I guess the question you have to ask yourself is, who do I want helping me make the biggest purchase in my life? Do I want somebody with a lot of experience, or somebody in a call center just smiling and dialing all day?
Tony, another question that I often get is, how much should I put down? Should I put down 5%, 10%, 20%? Because I feel like in the past, it was a lot more common to put down a very large down payment, the 20%. What is typical now? What would you recommend for somebody that's looking to buy a home? How much should they put down?
It depends on the client. There's not a one-size-fits-all answer. For some people, it's appropriate to put more down. Some people, it's not. So the important thing is that there are a lot of options. There's programs where you only need 3% down, 3.5% down, and you can still get a really low payment. So it's hard to say which one's best without looking at all the details, but there's a lot of options available, and you don't need necessarily 20% down.
Perfect. Any final thoughts, any final words of encouragement or tips for somebody that's getting ready to not only start the home buying process, but also to get a mortgage and get pre-qualified with a mortgage lender?
So I would say, you know, one of the most important things is find a good real estate agent that you're comfortable with. Somebody that's a hustler, is out there gonna make offers and knock on doors and get you the house you want. And communicate well. It's really important to have open lines of communication between the lender, the real estate agent, and the closing attorney, because we're a team, and everybody wants to work together to make sure that you have a good experience. And it's not stressful, it's exciting, and you know, if you're looking for a good real estate agent, Tim Hardiman's the man. Knows the market really well, a fierce negotiator. And he's got a great team of people that are really they take really good care of their folks. So if you need Tim's info, send me a message and or shoot me an email or whatever, and be happy to share it.
If you're looking for a professional that can get the job done, that'll take you from A to Z when it comes to closing and buying your new home and getting pre-approved and getting that mortgage, you gotta call Tony Davis at Atlantic Home Mortgage. Go to his website, atlantichm.com, or send me a direct message or a text message, and I'll send you Tony's contact info. He is the man.